Yo, finally, the Unlikely Podcast has a proper an intro. You know what I'm saying? We just see you. But look, usually we just go straight into the interview, who's ever joining us on the show. And the audio that you get when you watch it on YouTube is the same thing that we upload here on the podcast feed. This time was a little different because I needed to touch base. I just got back from watching a whole lot of professional wrestling over the past week and a half. And also, I know this podcast isn't the biggest podcast in the world. I'm very proud that at least one person has listened to every episode of this podcast, because not a lot of people listen to a lot of podcasts. Like only 5% have huge fan bases. And who are we, man? We're just unlikely with Adrian Hernandez. Every day, every episode we grow, and we appreciate that. And we appreciate that you take time to click play. And I bring that stuff up because I know we're not the biggest podcast in the world, but I also know that the last time that I opened up the podcast speaking and not just going straight into an interview, I told you guys as an apology, and I said, hey, sorry for this mini break, especially at the beginning of a podcast. So many shows like start off and they'll do it for like 2 to 3 weeks, and then they'll see no one's listening, and then they just stop. And that's like, bro, that's not how that works. That shouldn't be important. Focus on putting on a good show and trying to do a good show every time you do it and build consistency. That's how you build an audience. That's how you build a community. That's how you get to connect with people. You can't just, no one, 5% of podcasts, again, get listened to. And that's like Joe Rogan and all these other huge, massive names and networks. You, my friend, are some random dude in Las Vegas like me. And you got to put in some work, and you got to build something and let people know that this is here and this is what people can expect. But I didn't expect to go on that rant. Let me touch base and circle back. Last time I opened the show up, actually talking, I had said that the reason why I had to go on this mini break at the start of the show, in the first couple of months, was because of some family things that I was dealing with, and I didn't want to get into specifics. And I said that the next time that I'd open the show, I'd give you those specifics. I just wasn't ready to talk about that at that time. And even that opening of the intro, I believe that was about 2 months ago. So it's been a minute, and for that I apologize. But I'll tell it to you now. The mother of my child, the woman that I live with, the woman that I raise an incredible son with, was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it's been a lot. It's been a lot on all of us, but most importantly, it's been a lot on her. So making sure that she's taken care of to the best of our abilities as she takes on this fight and continues to fight was priority number one, first and foremost, above everything. I'm happy to say in those months since finding out and being diagnosed, and now this plan of attack that includes chemotherapy, radiation, surgery, and some other things as well. We're heading in a positive direction. The chemotherapies has done wonders in terms of the size of the tumor that was in her breast. And she's actually, when you listen to this, she'll be in chemotherapy. If you're listening to this the day that this gets released, but we just any prayers, anything. I was like, I'm just going to say it and then we're going to move on. So excuse me, hold on. Trying to get my stuff together. But she's fighting this. She's heading in the positive direction, and we could use your prayers and stuff for energy and good mojo towards her in even dealing with the effects of chemotherapy and what it does to you as it tries to get rid of the cancer, but really F's up your body to the point that you can't even eat because everything tastes like metal. It's not like COVID, where if you had COVID, you couldn't taste anything, which also sucks, but it's just, you can't drink, you can't eat, and you feel bedridden. So send any prayers, and they'd be greatly appreciated. I just wanted to follow up and make sure that I at least brought that up, because look, man, we just got out of the Vince McMahon era where, like, if the thing didn't happen a week ago, then it didn't really count, even though we all know that, like, this thing happened. Why aren't you guys talking about it? So, with that being said, I just got done with the trip of a lifetime. 9 days on tour, working, 9 days, 5 wrestling shows, 4 different cities, and over 50 uploads on the YouTube. Just as we speak, there's more on the way. And the reason and the cities and the places I went to, we started off going from Las Vegas to Cleveland, needed to check in with my dad, at least have a good breakfast with him, spend a couple hours, and then headed to New York for Friday Night SmackDown at Madison Square Garden, the episode where Paul Heyman gets thrown through the table with the new bloodline. MSG, you lived up to the hype. Not just the energy from the fans, but the building and the mystique and the aura. It was there, and it's there, and it's a real thing. So thankful I can cross off MSG off the bucket list, and most importantly, so thankful that my niece, who by chance, not forced by me, by chance, loves wrestling, is a massive Bianca Belair stan. So to be able to finally take her to wrestling, for her to see Bianca come out, it meant the world to me. So that was incredible. From that, we went to Long Island, New York, in an arena that I don't remember what it's called. The UCB? I think it was the UCB arena in Long Island where the Islanders play. Man, Forbidden Door was fire. Forbidden Door was fire. I had a great time. I will point out this, and let me preference it first. We are not pro WWE. We are not pro AEW. We're not pro TNA. We're not pro Noah, New Japan, Ring of Honor, whatever. We are pro wrestling. We love professional wrestling here. So if you are like trying to get some all positive WWE and F everything else, or all positive AEW and F everything else, that's not what we do here. We love professional wrestling. Now, get back to the point. What I do want to say is AEW has this thing, and I saw it at Dynasty. I saw it at Dynasty from my couch watching on pay-per-view, that the moment a promo package plays and lets you know what fight's coming up next, if it's a matchup that's going to be a classic, that has classic 5-star potential, fans get hyped. When Bryan Danielson took on Will Ospreay, yes, the matchup delivered and was fucking amazing. But what really got me into it was that the moment that promo hit, everyone in the stands was freaking out because they knew real recognizes real. This is one of the best, and this is one of the best, and they're going after each other to see who's better. And it makes it feel like a really big playoff matchup or college football, where like when Florida and Georgia play, and it's half of the crowd's Gators, half of the crowd's Georgia. You can literally put a line through the stadium to see where fans are sitting. Like, that energy is amazing. And to match that with what you see in the ring, like, that's a hell of a thing. And I'm so happy that I went from watching Danielson and Ospreay and feeling that from my couch in Las Vegas to flying to New York across the country, because I knew that Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland could put on a matchup like that. They could put on a banger. They could put on a classic. And not only did they do that, but to experience that same type of energy in New York, in person, live in the flesh, that shit was magical. So shout out to Forbidden Door. Shout out to AEW. That was great. From there, we flew down to Toronto for Friday Night SmackDown, Money in the Bank, and NXT Heatwave, which is why we're doing this episode, because we talked to some folks that you will hear momentarily. But I will say, Toronto, super great city. The women, all different cultures, so many nationalities. I loved it. Shout out to the women of Toronto. Very friendly. Very friendly, very awesome. The vibes were cool. Downtown was popping at any time of the day. And I'm not just talking about like traffic and because the event, so everyone's getting ready, parking the car and walking to the event. No, I'm talking about downtown was like massive, but everything was within a 2-mile bubble, so you could walk anywhere. And cars are everywhere. The train, subway system, monorail that they got moving, filled with people walking on the streets, the boutiques, the bars, the brunch spots, all that stuff. Constant people and from like different vibes all throughout. I wasn't aware that cannabis was legal over there like that. You smelt that too, and it smelled good. I didn't get to partake because we were at work, but Toronto was a great city, and it was awkward too. Number one, I left and got into Toronto on July 4th, which seems like a violation as an American, but then I landed at 7:15 p.m. What dropped at 7 p.m. on July 4th was the Not Like Us video. So to watch that video on the plane, I was laughing my ass off like we about to show out this weekend. But then to get off the plane, go from the plane to the Uber pickup, not the plane to the hotel, from the plane to the Uber pickup in this airport, 7 different people playing that video on their phone. 2 of them were crying. The rest of them was laughing their ass off. Drake, hold that L. Money in the Bank was an incredible experience. If you didn't see it, during the the post conference after Money in the Bank, I was able to ask a question to John Cena and CM Punk, and no matter how far and how big I get within this business, and hopefully that means me getting massive and getting to the top, I don't take things and opportunities for granted. And Money in the Bank 2011 to me is what really cemented my love for professional wrestling, from being a fan that really liked it to being like, oh no, I'm in this for life. And that entire pay-per-view capped off, of course, by CM Punk beating John Cena. That energy, that vibe, like it's been unmatched. It was a feeling like she was incredible. Okay, it was beautiful. So to get to cover a Money in the Bank and then get to ask both of them questions was phenomenal. And that's like my short synopsis of everything. I don't want to go into it fully. Also, if you could, I've been debating on some additions to the channel and to do some different things. And one of those is actually having me speak outside of interviews. Not necessarily I'm trying to do a Raw review after every Monday Night Raw or SmackDown or Dynamite, whatever. No. But I would like to grow this out. And I don't know, maybe after every pay-per-view or after major events. I don't know. We're cooking. Let us know. What do you think? Do you want to hear me talk? Not just in interview form. Hit us up on the comments. Heavyweight Radio on Instagram as well and TikTok. Adrian Radio 93. Adrian Radio 93 on Twitter. Let us know. Give us your feedback. With that being said, let's get to these interviews. From Toronto, Canada, Money in the Bank, a Toronto Kendrick Lamar second hometown edition of Unlikely. Let's get to it. Money in the Bank Media Day in Toronto with the one and only Tiffany Stratton. It is officially, look at that, it's Tiffy time.
Oh, you're right.
I don't want to start the interview with a little bit of contention, but I'm from Las Vegas. You're from Minnesota. We kind of stole WrestleMania. I'm going to just be dead ass. That's kind of what happened. You did get SummerSlam, though, 2 nights. Like, your reaction to that when you found out, oh, it's not going to be in Minnesota?
Yeah. It's definitely cool that now SummerSlam is 2 nights now, and it's in Minnesota. However, that's like 2 years away, unfortunately. But, I think Las Vegas is definitely a good place to host WrestleMania. I feel like there's so many things to do there. So, I'm excited either way.
In a perfect world, like, obviously Las Vegas, there's so many residencies from Usher, Adele, so many artists, so many genres. In a perfect world, you have the unlimited budget. What's the perfect Tiffany Stratton WrestleMania entrance in Las Vegas?
Entrance. Ooh, I think I've always wanted to come out in like a pink Barbie car, like a pink Porsche or a pink Corvette, I don't know. And I feel like maybe I'll get like Lady Gaga or somebody to sing my entrance song. I don't know. I haven't really thought that far, but I definitely think a pink car.
Gaga does have the residency, so I love it. And you talk about fashion. Have we confirmed, first off, the Money in the Bank? When you win, are we turning it straight pink? Like, do you have, what's it going to look like? What's the decor?
Oh yeah, you nailed that. We're turning it pink. We're going to bedazzle it. Maybe we'll add on an extra strap so I can carry it around like a purse. You'll have to wait and see.
Two more questions. I want to ask you, when you get called up and you get called up, right? You're in the WWE. The audience seems to love you all across the world, by the way. What's that one moment of like, oh, I'm in the big leagues now?
I feel like every time I do my entrance, it's definitely like a moment where I'm like, whoa, there's a lot of people here. I wasn't really used to that in NXT. So definitely coming out of Gorilla, that initial like, it's Tiffy time, like that's always my moment where I'm like, okay, this is insane.
And then my last question, if you don't feel comfortable asking, you don't have to answer. There was a post that you made on your IG story. Was it a situation where you didn't know what the audio was saying and you were just like, click, repost, or what happened there?
Yep, it was an honest mistake. I didn't hear the audio, and I had it up for maybe 20 seconds, and I deleted it instantly as soon as I heard the audio. It was an honest mistake.
And the internet, they screenshot and it lives forever. But Tiffany, thank you for answering and thank you so much for the time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Media Day Money in the Bank in Toronto with the one and only LA Knight. LA, I need to ask you, and I want to start off with this. Your career, you could use the word perseverance, and you finally get this WrestleMania match in Philly against AJ Styles.
Sure.
What was going through your head before you were coming out of Gorilla, going out to the ring?
Another night at the office, and I don't say that to kind of downplay it, but in all honesty, another night at the office. There's not really a time in that moment for me anyway. Maybe for other people, I don't know. It just doesn't work that way for me to kind of step back and do that. Because for me, I got to go out there, I got to do the business at hand, and then maybe when it's over, maybe I can think about it and be like, oh, hey, that was cool. But yeah, another night at the office.
How was it going through? You look at the roster and it's stacked, and the return of The Rock and CM Punk, and with all the Sharks and everyone competing. Is that the type of environment you want to be in, where hey, every day I got to give it my all?
I don't know how else to do this. There's never been another way for me to do this. No matter what company I was in, no matter where I was working, I always did it like I was on the top stage, in my opinion. Maybe people don't agree with that. Maybe some people look at me and they go, you suck, pal, and that's okay. But as far as I'm concerned, for what I do, the way I do it every single time like I'm on that stage with 100,000 people in the place, with millions of people watching me around the world. So yeah, for me, am I going to put my all in on the small show, on the big show? Bet your ass.
Professionally and just personally, the tribute that you gave Bray Wyatt, was that one of the hardest things you've had to do when it comes to wrestling?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I had to do something similar to that with Percy Pringle, William Moody. Most people probably know him as Paul Bearer, about 11 years ago. And so I'd kind of drawn on that in a certain way, where it was like I needed to go out and talk about him while also keeping the business moving and not disrespecting in the same time. So finding that happy medium, I needed to ask for a lot of freedom. Hey, if I'm going to do this, I need to do it this way, and let me just go out there and riff. And thankfully, they were able to let me do that, and that's what I did. And I think we came out with a pretty good thing. And for me, there was a lot of meaning behind that, because I mean, again, that was one of my pretty much a major turning point for me, where it was like, all right, sink or swim. I can either go here and just be a guy who's just in a thing, or I can be a guy who's going to make a real impression with another guy who was a major mainstay in the business, and that's what we did.
Last question. A lot of New York Knicks fans want to know, are you training Jalen Brunson? Can we see a tag match? And the environment in New York, it was the loudest I've ever heard in Madison Square Garden.
I can't let you in on any secrets, but never say never. I'll just put that out there.
Crazier things have happened in the business. Good luck this weekend, LA Knight. Thank you so much for the time.
Dude, thanks for having me. It's Money in the Bank. Yeah.
It's Money in the Bank Media Day. I'm here with him, Carmelo Hayes. Now, Melo, I landed yesterday, 7:15, 15 minutes after Kendrick dropped the video. And I'm going to be real honest with you. It felt like the mood changed in Toronto. In your opinion, I don't know when you got in, but can you see it's a little sadness out there in these Toronto streets?
For some reason, when I came in, I couldn't get that song out of my head. I caught myself saying, getting a couple lines off, and I realized I got to watch where I'm at, man. I see what happened to Rick Ross. You got to watch where you at.
Yo, that's facts. One thing I wanted to ask you, though, I know that you love wrestling. You've wanted to do this your whole life since you was eating cartoons and cereals. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What do you do with the action figures that they make of you?
You know what's crazy is like when you're in it, I remember as a kid I had the action figures. As a kid I played the video games, but for some reason when you're in it, you don't see it that way. So like I have my figures, you know what I mean? I have like a box of them, but I wish I could say like, yeah, I got them and I take them out, but I really don't, because it's more like it's like almost like a trophy. You know what I mean? And it's a weird way to, like a really vain way to say it, like a trophy of yourself. But also in a way it's an accomplishment. I look at that like being a kid, and sometimes like I have to, like I said, step out of my own shoes and be like, holy crap, I have an action figure, and holy crap, I'm in a video game. So with those action figures, I just collect them or I'll give them to people, my friends and family and stuff.
That's dope. And I remember talking to you before NXT Stand and Deliver in Hollywood.
Yeah.
You were talking about how your time in NXT was kind of like going through college, freshman year, sophomore year.
Sure.
Well, you graduated.
You
got drafted. And you got drafted. You've been planting these money trees, going up against Cody Rhodes, going up against Randy Orton, like getting those moments that you've always wanted. How does it feel to actually manifest those dreams into reality?
Sometimes when you're along the ride, you don't stop and smell the flowers, and I think that's been something that I've been doing, is just kind of just going along the ride. Only when I talk to people like you guys, and you guys put it into perspective for me, I really can stop and be like, holy crap, I did do that. But I think that's part of the reason for my success, is I don't really stop and try and live in the moment to where it's like I allow it to psych myself out. I just continue to chase the moments, and I think something I said in the past is I don't keep score, I just keep scoring. And I think that's kind of like my mentality, is just I'm not going to just pull up on my track record on what I've done. It's like, well, what's next? You know what I mean?
Facts. And my last question, when you get into a ladder match, one of these matches with weapons where your body's going to be in pain, is it a feeling of euphoria going through those matches, or it's like, damn, I got a ladder match, this is going to hurt?
After you've done them a couple times, you just kind of understand the pressures and kind of what comes with it, the requirements, I guess you could say. But I don't ever psych myself out, and there's no like, oh my God, I got to do this, I got to do that. It's like, hey, what happens out there is going to happen out there. Just like any other match, you can get just as hurt in a one-on-one than you can in a ladder match a lot of times. So you know what I mean? And I've been in a couple, I've been fortunate enough to be in a couple where, I've walked out okay. And so, I plan on walking out okay tomorrow and walking out with that Money in the Bank briefcase.
Melo, I don't know if you know this, money trees, cartoons and cereal, and euphoria, I asked those specifically on purpose.
Yeah, I was wondering where you was going with that. Yeah, cartoons and cereal. I appreciate the reference, my boy. I appreciate you, dog.
Melo, thank you for the time.
Absolutely, anytime.
Appreciate you, dog. Thank you.